Welcome to another deep dive.
Oh, this is going to be a good one.
Today we're going to be looking at excerpts from the Borderlands of Science.
Ooh, Michael Shermer.
Yeah, Michael Shermer, and specifically chapters on Darwin,
Okay.
SETI pioneers,
Oh, wow.
and the concept of genius.
I love this stuff. Buckle up, everybody, because we're
Yeah.
going to unpack some complex ideas and historical narratives and some surprising details.
Yeah, there's some really interesting stuff here.
I think what's really intriguing about these selections is that they challenge us to think about, like, the very nature of science itself.
Yeah.
Where those boundaries lie and how they shift over time.
Okay, so let's start with Darwin.
Right.
So Shermer talks about how Darwin himself acknowledged the influence of economist Thomas Malthus
Malthus, yes.
on his theory of natural selection.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Sure. So Darwin read Malthus's essay on population growth,
Okay.
and it argued that population growth would always outstrip resources, leading to competition for survival.
Right.
And this concept of a struggle for existence, this was a key insight for Darwin,
Yeah.
because it helped him understand how favorable variations in a species would be preserved over time, while unfavorable ones would be eliminated.
Oh, so it wasn't just about individual survival,
Right.
but about which traits were passed down through generations.
Exactly.
Okay.
Darwin recognized that in this struggle for resources, those individuals with traits that gave them an advantage,
Yeah.
even a slight one, they were more likely to survive and reproduce,
Right.
passing those advantageous traits onto their offspring. And then, over time, this process could lead to the evolution of new species.
That's really interesting. It makes you wonder if Darwin would have arrived at his theory without Malthus's influence.
It's impossible to say for sure.
Yeah.
But what is clear is that Darwin was deeply impacted by Malthus's ideas.
Yeah.
He even wrote his autobiography. It is the doctrine of Malthus applied with manifold force to the whole animal and vegetable kingdoms.
It's amazing how ideas from seemingly unrelated fields can, intersect
I know.
and spark new discoveries.
Absolutely. And this interdisciplinary approach,
Yeah.
it's a recurring theme in Shermer's work.
Yeah.
He constantly encourages us to look for connections between different areas of knowledge.
Now, something else that stood out to me was Darwin's modesty.
Okay.
Even after achieving such incredible success with his theory,
Yeah.
Shermer mentions how Darwin acknowledged that his work would need significant modification given more time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What do you think was behind that humility?
Well, I think it speaks to a certain kind of scientific mindset.
Right.
One that embraces uncertainty
Yeah.
and recognizes that knowledge is always evolving.
Right.
Darwin understood that his theory wasn't the final word.
Mm.
He saw it as a starting point,
Yeah.
a framework that could be, refined and expanded upon as new evidence emerged.
So it wasn't about being right or wrong,
Right.
but about constantly seeking a deeper understanding.
Precisely. And I think that humility
Yeah.
is something that's often missing
Mm.
in today's world where everyone seems so certain
Right.
of their own opinions.
That's a great point.
It's like,
Yeah.
everyone's an expert.
Yeah. It seems like there's a real value in embracing uncertainty and being open to revising our beliefs as we learn more.
Absolutely. And I think Darwin's example
Yeah.
is a powerful reminder of that.
Okay, so we've talked about Darwin's influences and his humility,
Right.
but there's also this persistent myth
Yeah.
that Darwin wasn't truly original,
Okay.
that he simply rehashed ideas
Right.
already prevalent at the time.
Yeah,
Shermer tackles this head on, doesn't he?
he does. And he specifically addresses the claims that Darwin simply borrowed from the work of people like Charles Lyell and Edward Blyth.
Right, I remember reading about them.
Oh,
They
yeah.
both had theories about species changing over time.
Yes, but their ideas were fundamentally different
Okay.
from Darwin's. Lyell and Blyth were primarily concerned with the preservation of existing species, not the creation of new ones.
Okay.
So they were operating within the framework of the dominant paradigm at the time,
Yeah.
creationism,
Right.
which held that species were fixed and immutable.
So even though they acknowledged the possibility of change, it was a very limited form of change.
Exactly. They were essentially arguing for minor variations
Okay.
within a species,
Mhm.
not the kind of radical transformation that Darwin proposed with his theory of natural selection.
So in the context of his time, Darwin's ideas were actually quite revolutionary.
Absolutely. They challenged the very foundation of how people understood the natural world. And that's why he's considered such a pivotal figure
Right.
in the history of science.
It makes you wonder how those ideas must have been received back then.
Oh, I can only imagine. It must have been incredibly shocking
Yeah.
for many people to have their entire worldview
Right.
upended in such a profound way.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And yet, despite that initial resistance,
Right.
Darwin's ideas ultimately prevailed.
They did. And that's a testament to the power of his evidence and the elegance of his theory.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most revolutionary ideas
Yeah.
are the ones that seem the simplest
Mm-hmm.
and most obvious in hindsight.
Right. Once you understand the concept of natural selection,
Yeah.
it's hard to imagine any other explanation for the diversity of life
Right.
on Earth. It's like a key
It's a perfect.
that unlocks a whole new understanding of the world.
Exactly. And that's what makes Darwin's work so enduring.
Hmm.
It provided a framework
Right.
for understanding not just the past,
Yeah.
but also the ongoing process of evolution in the present
Right.
and the future.
It's incredible to think how relevant his work remains.
I know, it's amazing.
Even in the 21st century.
It is. Unlike some other, scientific figures
Yeah.
whose influence has, waned over time.
Right.
Darwin's ideas
Yeah.
remain central to biology.
Yeah.
His work has been built upon
Yeah.
and expanded,
Right.
but the core principles of natural selection
Yeah.
remain as powerful and relevant as ever.
So, moving on from Darwin,
Okay.
our next stop takes us to the stars.
Ooh.
Shermer delves into the world of SETI,
All right.
the search for extraterrestrial intelligence,
Okay.
and brings up another intriguing thinker, philosopher of science Karl Popper,
Popper.
and his concept of falsifiability.
Yes. Falsifiability.
Yeah.
It's a key concept in the philosophy of science.
Okay.
And it's particularly relevant when we're talking about SETI.
Can you explain what falsifiability means?
Sure.
And how it applies to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence?
Of course.
Yeah.
So Popper argued
Okay.
that for a theory to be considered truly scientific, it must be possible to conceive of an observation or experiment
Right.
that could potentially disprove it. In other words, there must be a way to test the theory
Yeah.
and potentially show it to be false.
So if a theory can't be disproven,
Right.
then it's not really scientific.
That's Popper's argument.
Okay.
He believed that falsifiability
Yeah.
was the key criterion for distinguishing between science and non-science.
Yeah.
And this brings us to the challenge of SETI.
Yeah.
How do you apply falsifiability
Right.
to a theory like the existence of extraterrestrial life?
That's a good point.
Right.
If we haven't found evidence of aliens yet,
Yeah.
does that mean they don't exist?
Right.
Or just that we haven't looked hard enough?
Right.
Or haven't developed the right technology to detect them?
That's the dilemma.
Yeah.
And it's why Shermer refers to SETI as a borderland science,
Mm-hmm.
an area of inquiry that sits on the edge of what we
Okay.
can definitively prove
Okay.
or disprove.
So SETI is in this kind of gray area
Yeah, like this liminal space.
between established science and speculation.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's dealing with a question that is incredibly difficult,
Yeah.
perhaps even impossible
Right.
to definitively answer
Right.
with our current methods
Yeah.
and technology.
Okay, so we're dealing with a true mystery here,
Yeah.
one that really pushes the boundaries of what we consider scientific.
Absolutely. And Shermer gives credit to Carl Sagan
Okay.
for helping transform the search for extraterrestrial intelligence
Okay.
from a fringe idea
Right.
into a more legitimate area of scientific inquiry.
Sagan was such a captivating figure.
Oh, totally.
He really brought the wonders of the universe
He did.
to the public in a way that no one else had before.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was amazing.
He was a great science communicator.
Yeah.
And his passion for SETI
Yeah,
was contagious.
it was.
But Shermer also reminds us that it's important
Okay.
to examine even larger-than-life figures like Sagan through a more objective scientific lens.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What does it mean to apply a scientific lens to a biography?
Well, one way is to look for, objective data and patterns in a person's life and work.
Right.
Shermer uses Sagan's extensive CV as a data source,
Okay.
and it reveals some fascinating insights.
So what can we glean from Sagan's CV?
First, it shows that Sagan was an incredibly prolific scientist with an output comparable to other highly esteemed researchers.
That's impressive.
He made significant contributions
Okay.
to planetary science and exobiology,
Okay.
which is the study of life beyond Earth.
But wasn't he best known for his popular science work?
That's true, like Cosmos?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But the CV analysis shows
Yeah.
that his primary professional interest
Right.
was actually in planetary science,
Mm.
followed by exobiology,
Mm-hmm.
and even SETI.
Wow.
So it challenges this common perception of him
Right.
as primarily a science popularizer.
Right.
He was a serious scientist,
Yeah.
first and foremost.
It's a good reminder that public perception isn't always the whole story. That's right.
Now, something else that Shermer explores is the religious backgrounds
Yeah.
of SETI pioneers, which seems like an unexpected connection.
It is an interesting point.
Yeah.
He notes that most of these pioneers were raised in religious households,
Okay.
but didn't hold traditional beliefs
Right.
as adults.
So is the idea here that SETI might fulfill
Yeah.
a kind of spiritual or existential need
Yeah, maybe.
for these scientists?
It's a thought-provoking question, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Frank Drake, one of the founders of SETI, observed that the religious upbringing
Okay.
of many pioneers,
Yeah.
particularly their exposure to fundamentalist religion, may have influenced their interest
Okay.
in seeking out higher intelligences
Right.
in the universe.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if the search for extraterrestrial life, for
Yeah.
some,
Yeah.
is connected to this deep human desire to understand our place in the cosmos
Absolutely.
and whether we're alone in this vast universe.
Right. It's a question that has haunted humanity for centuries.
Right.
And SETI offers a modern scientific approach
Yeah.
to addressing it. Shermer even draws a parallel between SETI and the Copernican revolution.
In what way?
Well, both challenge our assumptions
Okay.
about humanity's centrality and uniqueness. Just as Copernicus dethroned the Earth
Yeah.
from its perceived position at the center of the universe,
Right.
the discovery of extraterrestrial life
Yeah.
would fundamentally alter our understanding of our place in the cosmos.
That's a really profound point.
I think so, too.
Okay, but let's be realistic for a moment.
Sure.
We still haven't found any concrete evidence of alien life.
Yep.
So what compels figures like Sagan
Right.
to believe so passionately in its existence?
Well, Sagan famously said that the universe is a pretty big place.
Yeah.
If it's just us, it seems like an awful waste of space.
That's a classic Sagan quote.
It is. But I think it speaks to something deeper than just the statistical probability of life existing elsewhere.
Okay.
There's this inherent human drive
Right.
to explore, to push the boundaries of the known,
Yeah.
and to seek out answers to the big questions
Right.
about our existence.
Yeah.
And for Sagan, SETI represented the
Yeah.
ultimate expression of that drive.
And in his novel Contact,
Yes.
the protagonist actually finds proof
Right.
of a higher intelligence embedded in the very fabric of the universe, right?
Yes. She discovers the mathematical constant pi,
Oh, wow.
encoded within signals coming from space.
Okay.
And this discovery points to a deliberate design, a cosmic intelligence behind it all.
Wow. That's a powerful image.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
It speaks to our fascination with the idea that there might be some kind of grand plan, some meaning behind it all.
It does. And it taps into that age-old human desire
Yeah.
to find our place in the grand scheme of things, to connect with something larger than ourselves.
All right, let's shift gears now and come back down to Earth.
Okay.
We've explored evolution
Yes.
and the search for extraterrestrial life.
Right.
But now I'm curious to delve into the concept of genus itself.
Okay, let's do it.
Shermer really challenges some common assumptions in this area, particularly with his discussion of the Amadeus myth.
The Amadeus myth, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that he talks about that.
Yeah. So the Amadeus myth is this romanticized notion
Right.
that genius stems from sudden,
Uh-huh.
inexplicable bursts of inspiration.
Yeah, it's like the eureka moment.
Right, like the eureka.
Yeah.
Yeah. We imagine figures like Einstein or Mozart being struck by these
Right. Divine inspiration.
eureka
Yeah.
moments.
Yeah.
Like a bolt from the blue, they suddenly grasp some profound truth or create a masterpiece.
Right.
Yeah.
But Shermer argues that these stories, while entertaining, don't accurately reflect the reality of the creative process.
So what's the alternative?
Well, Shermer,
Yeah.
drawing on research in cognitive psychology,
Okay.
proposes that genius is more about the quantity of mental power and dedication
Okay.
rather than a qualitatively different
Right.
mental process.
So it's more about hard work and perseverance
Exactly.
than some innate spark.
Yes. It's about practice,
Hmm.
accumulated knowledge,
Yeah.
and the ability to recognize patterns and connect seemingly disparate ideas.
And Schirmer uses the example of chess masters to illustrate this point, right?
Yes. Research has shown
Hmm.
that chess masters don't actually consider significantly more moves
Right.
than average players.
Okay.
The key difference is that they have a vast repertoire
Okay.
of patterns and experience stored in their memories,
Right.
allowing them to quickly recognize the most promising moves.
So it's not that their brains work differently,
Right.
but rather that they've spent years honing their skills and building up a massive mental database of chess knowledge.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's like a chess library in their brain.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And this same principle applies to other areas of expertise.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about accumulating knowledge,
Yeah.
recognizing patterns,
Right.
and refining your skills through practice and dedication.
It's a great reminder that even seemingly extraordinary abilities
Yeah.
can often be traced back to hard work and
Mhm.
perseverance.
Right. It's not magic. It's just
Right.
dedication.
Yeah. Another compelling example that Schirmer brings up
Okay.
is Arthur Benjamin,
Arthur Benjamin. Yes.
the lightning calculator.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
His ability.
Yeah, so Benjamin's ability to perform complex mental calculations at incredible speed seems almost superhuman, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
You would think that he was born with this amazing gift.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But in reality,
Yeah.
his skills are the result of honed techniques and years of dedicated practice.
Okay.
He's mastered a set of mental algorithms and strategies
Okay.
that allow him to manipulate numbers
Yeah.
with incredible efficiency.
That's amazing.
It's really impressive. Yeah.
It's a real testament to the power of deliberate practice
Absolutely.
and mental discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, it's not magic.
Right.
It's just hard work.
Right. It challenges this notion that genius is something you're either born with or not.
Exactly.
Of course, natural talent plays a role,
Sure.
but it's the dedication and the hard work
Yes.
that truly make the difference.
I agree.
Yeah. So it's not just about having a high IQ, it's about what you do with it.
Exactly. And that brings us to Dean Keith Simonton's fascinating concept of genius as a Darwinian process.
Wait, Darwinian?
Yeah.
How does evolution fit into this?
So Simonton argues
Okay.
that just like natural selection favors the traits
Yeah.
that are most advantageous for survival, creative geniuses operate on a similar principle.
Okay.
They generate a multitude of ideas,
Right.
a kind of mental variation,
Okay.
and then select the most promising ones for development and refinement.
So in a sense, they're running their own internal natural selection process
Yes.
on their ideas.
Precisely.
Wow. Okay.
It's a process of variation,
Yeah.
selection, and refinement.
Okay.
And Schirmer uses Jared Diamond's book, Guns, Germs, and Steel.
Oh, I love that book.
It's a great book.
It seems to draw on knowledge from so many different fields. History, geography, biology, anthropology.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
It is.
Yeah.
And that vast scope of knowledge didn't appear overnight.
Right.
Diamond spent years writing articles and essays
Okay.
on various topics, essentially testing out different ideas and seeing which ones resonated.
Right.
And through that process, he was able to identify the key themes and connections that ultimately formed the foundation of his groundbreaking book.
So rather than a single eureka moment, it was a long, iterative process.
That's right.
Of exploring different ideas and refining his thinking over time.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's a testament to the power of sustained effort,
Yeah.
curiosity, and a willingness to synthesize knowledge from diverse fields.
This makes me think that those eureka moments we often hear about might actually be the culmination of years of hard work and exploration.
I think so too.
Rather than a sudden flash of insight.
That's a very insightful point.
Yeah.
These moments of sudden inspiration are often the result of a long incubation period where the mind has been working on a problem subconsciously, making connections, exploring possibilities. And it's only when all the pieces fall into place that we experience that aha moment.
Yeah.
You know?
So it seems like hard work and dedication are essential ingredients.
I think so.
In the recipe for genius.
Yeah.
But are there other factors at play?
Sure.
Does personality come into it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Research suggests that certain personality traits, like openness to experience and conscientiousness, are strongly associated with creative genius.
So you need to be open to exploring unconventional ideas.
Yes.
But you also need the discipline to follow through on them and develop them into something meaningful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And interestingly, Schirmer's analysis of Carl Sagan's personality reveal high levels of both openness and conscientiousness.
That makes sense, considering his success as both a scientist and a science communicator.
It seems like a perfect combination
for
someone who's pushing the boundaries of knowledge while also making it accessible to a wider audience.
Yeah, the great combination.
It is.
Yeah.
And this balance of traits seems to be a common thread among many creative geniuses.
It's fascinating to think that these personality traits, combined with hard work and a bit of luck, can lead to such incredible accomplishments. It challenges the notion that genius is something mystical.
It's not magic.
Or unattainable.
No.
It suggests that genius is something
attainable
that can be nurtured and developed.
To some extent, yeah.
Yeah.
At least to some extent.
It is to some extent, right?
Yeah.
It's an inspiring thought. It means that we all have the potential to tap into our own inner genius.
Our inner Carl Sagan.
Even if it takes a bit more sweat and toil.
Yeah, a little elbow grease.
Than a miraculous aha moment.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
It really does make you wonder how many potential geniuses are out there.
Oh, I know.
Who simply haven't had the opportunity or the right environment to cultivate their talents.
That's an incredibly important point.
Yeah.
It raises the question of how we, as a society, can create spaces and systems that foster creativity and allow individuals to reach their full potential.
If genius is at least partially a product of practice and environment.
Absolutely.
It seems like we should be investing more in education.
Yes.
And creating more opportunity.
Yes, 1,000 times, yeah.
For people to explore their interests and develop their skills.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It suggests that societal support and access to resources play a crucial role in fostering innovation and progress.
Yeah.
You know, we need to move away from this idea that genius is solely an individual trait. And recognize the importance of creating fertile ground.
Yeah, like a garden.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a garden.
For those seeds of genius.
Yeah, exactly.
To sprout and flourish.
Yeah, to bloom.
Yeah. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From Darwin's revolutionary ideas about evolution to the mind-blowing possibilities of SETI and the inspiring and perhaps demystified nature of genius.
I like that.
Yeah.
Demystified.
Yeah. Is there one thing that stands out to you as the most important takeaway?
For me, it's the importance of questioning assumptions and embracing complexity throughout this deep dive.
Yeah.
We've seen how seemingly simple narratives, like the Amadeus myth, or the idea that genius is solely about innate talent, often don't hold up under scrutiny. It's about looking beyond the surface and acknowledging the nuances and complexities of these issues.
I completely agree. And it highlights the fact that knowledge is a process.
Yes.
Not a fixed endpoint.
It's a journey.
We're constantly learning, revising our understanding.
And
pushing the boundaries of what we know.
I love that.
That's what makes these deep dives so rewarding.
I agree.
Yeah, it's about embracing the unknown.
Yeah.
And acknowledging that there's always more to learn. Exactly. And it's about recognizing that science isn't about having all the answers.
Yeah.
But about asking the right questions. And being open to unexpected discoveries. Whether it's exploring the origins of life on Earth, seeking out signs of intelligence in the vastness of space, or understanding the nature of human creativity.
Expert.
Yeah, it's that spirit of inquiry that drives us forward.
To wrap things up, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question.
Okay.
We've talked about the impact of human actions throughout history, both positive and negative. Considering the examples of what Schirmer calls ecocide.
Ecocide, yeah.
The destruction of ecosystems. What responsibility do we have to future generations to ensure that our technological advancements don't lead to our own destruction?
That's a profound question.
It is.
And one that we should all be grappling with. It's a reminder that progress isn't always linear. And that we need to be mindful of the potential consequences of our actions. As we continue to push the boundaries of knowledge and technology, we need to do so with a sense of responsibility. and a deep understanding of our interconnectedness with the planet and all its inhabitants.
It's a call to action, really.
It is.
We need to learn from the mistakes of the past and make conscious choices that will create a more sustainable and equitable future.
Absolutely.
For all.
And I think this deep dive has given us some valuable tools for navigating these complex challenges.
Right.
By embracing a scientific mindset, questioning assumptions, and fostering a sense of wonder and curiosity, we can create a brighter future for ourselves and generations to come.
So to our listener, remember that this deep dive is just the beginning.
The first step.
The real journey is the one you take on your own.
That's right.
Exploring the vast and fascinating world of ideas.
It's out there.
Keep questioning, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
I love that. Yeah, it's about understanding that science is a process, you know?
Yeah, and appreciating the human element in both science and the pursuit of knowledge.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes these conversations so fascinating.
It is. It's like
peeling back the layers of a complex puzzle.
Yeah, and we get to do it together.
I love that.
So to our listener, keep exploring these ideas and keep asking those tough questions.
And keep diving deep.
We'll see you next time.